telling us for years and years and years and years that those who come here on the small boats illegally are fleeing, terrible horrors at home and fleeing war zones and, fleeing terrible persecution in their home countries, right? And that we can't ever question any of them. Yeah. There's no suggestion that any of them might be actually terrorists, or they might be, criminals, or they might be coming here for nefarious purposes to take part in criminal activity. We can't do any of that. But they've all gone very quiet suddenly, because now the Labour government is in, and they're saying, well, we have to deport some people, even though they're not really doing it. But suddenly now, also, and I saw this with his announcement on the NHS yesterday, he's effectively privatising bits of the NHS. Yeah. Nobody's saying a word.
Well, that's not new.
Not
Blair.
But Blair is not Starmer. Yeah. Let's face it. These are the same people who would have said absolutely blue murder if Rishi Sunak had started talking about it.
Yeah, but I think it's important we govern with evidence, on the basis of evidence, and Rupert Lowe has done a great job trying to get evidence on criminality, disproportionate criminality, among certain groups. One of those groups is the migrant groups. Yeah. And we don't check for these people coming in. They decide to come here, and the human rights law protects them, and then they have a Muslim state, right? So they're deciding to come here. We have no say in it at all. We find out that some of those groups are disproportionately criminal. Yeah. The Albanian, off the scale. How can one community have so much criminality in it? A sensible government say we're not going to have this. Yeah. And change what is happening. Right. We're not doing it.
And ban Albanians from ever coming to the country.
It's a rational evidence-based
policy. Take all the Albanians who are in prison, who account for the largest number of foreign prisoners in our prison system.
Yeah, sure.
And deport them all.
But they, again, get the theory. Why is it happening? The problem is that they can't. There's no amount of suffering, basically. And this is suffering. If you look at the criminalities, 130,000 arrests by foreigners last year. Yeah. This is people getting attacked and hurt and raped and killed in some cases. The problem with the progressive is that there's no amount of pain that they're prepared to put on the society to fulfil their little dreams of utopia. Yeah. They want this wonderful society. They cannot see
what do you think's behind it. It's a kind of arrangement.
It's arrangement.
Yeah. But how do they get to that place where, you and I are talking here as two rational human beings, I think. I don't think either one of us would be described by anyone except for Keir Starmer as far right. We've grown up in this country. I grew up in a mostly white neighbourhood, which was North London, as it was then. It's still a relatively white neighbourhood. It hasn't changed much, but there's a lot of foreigners now who have come in. That's part of the course. I went to school in a relatively white school. I think we had one or two black kids in the school. I went through most of my life knowing people from Britain, right? I went and lived in America. New York was a very open place to me. I couldn't believe quite how many people were there. It was a melting pot. But everybody who was there was American. Yeah. It didn't matter whether they were Russians or whether they were Israelis or where they came from. They were all Americans, right? Yeah.